Welcome to our live broadcast from Parking Day here in downtown Philadelphia. This is PhillyCAM's 10th year participating in Parking Day. Parking Day is a global public participatory project where people across the world temporarily repurpose curbside parking spaces and convert them into public parks and social spaces to advocate for safer, greener, and more equitable streets for people. We're doing something different this year. We're participating with Resolve Philly to bring a live broadcast to our parking spot. We are participating in Democracy Day by interviewing series of guests on topics of government accountability, information access, and civic engagement. Our hope is to reimagine and reclaim our democracy and ensure it is working for the people. Our first segment will be a conversation between Julie Christie and the new team of Philly documenters.
Thanks so much for having us. All right, well, to explain a little bit more about Democracy Day, we're so excited to be joining you all for Parking Day and today being Democracy Day. So today is, for Democracy, a collaboration among a bunch of newsrooms across the country to report on and bring better information and solutions about the crisis facing our democracy today. Democracy Day really hopes to play a pivotal part in helping ensure that the public has the information that they need to participate in democracy and really, gain their voice on changing the way things are done. We really want to help residents understand and participate in this in more ways than just voting. Democracy isn't just voting. And so we're really excited to share all of this information that, frames the issues that we're talking about today, as well as what's at stake, and, focus less on maybe what political candidates and parties are choosing to focus on, and instead really taking the time to explore what's happening in our neighborhoods, what's impacting our day-to-day life. And that's what Documenters really does. So, excuse us for all the traffic noises. And so Documenters is a program where we train Philadelphia residents to take notes at public meetings, and then we publish those notes for free online for everybody to access. And Documenters is a program that started in Chicago. It actually is present in more than 10 cities across the country. And so we're really excited that we've launched the program here in Philadelphia. And I'm excited to explain, first we're going to talk about your rights at public meetings, which is very exciting. And then we're going to get to chat with our documenters who have been going out and doing this really, really important work of creating that full public record. So, an amazing thing about public meetings, you have a right to go to them. You have a right to be there. You have a right to get your voice heard, and you have a right to make record of what is going on there. And so, by attending public meetings, this is where our city's leaders will shape local policy. They take action that impacts our lives. They make decisions about things. And in Pennsylvania, we have this thing called the Open Meetings Law, which is part of the Sunshine Act. And this really lays out the rules that our government has to follow. But that doesn't always happen across statewide, federal, or even our local agencies. So the city of Philadelphia holds a lot of public meetings each month, and they aren't always easy to attend or to find information on, like where you need to go, what Zoom meeting you need to tune into, and that sort of thing. So it's really essential for democracy that the members of our public are able to have oversight in and participate in this decision-making process. So when it comes to attending these public meetings, you have a bunch of very clearly laid out rights. The first of which, you have a right to know about a public meeting 3 days before it actually happens. That's when any public entity or agency that's holding a public space is supposed to notify us that they're having a meeting. You're also entitled to 24 hours notice if it's been rescheduled. Same with viewing the agenda, which outlines what the meeting is going to be about, which can be really important for you to decide, this is a meeting that I definitely need to be at, or this is a meeting that maybe I can skip in and check out the Documenter site later. You also have a right to comment on issues during the public comment period. Every public meeting is supposed to have this public comment period. The way it works in the city of Philadelphia is you often will have to register your public comment in advance. There's a time limit, and there's also usually a topic limit. So it has to be relevant to what is being talked about at that public meeting. When you have 3 days notice, it's much easier to plan and register that public comment. However, when you don't have that 3 days notice, it can be much harder, and therefore a lot harder to participate in that democratic process. You also have the right to object to decisions being made during or anything being held during what's called executive session. This is a closed meeting where the public is not allowed. It's very important for our local leaders to have this kind of space for them to really hash out details and that sort of thing, but decisions themselves have to be made in a public space. So if you're at a meeting and they're going into executive session or they mention it, you have the right to protest that. You also have the right to document what's happening at that meeting. If you want to do a video recording, audio recording, take notes at a public meeting, nobody can stop you. Go ahead, do it. Record what's happening. Make sure that you have what you need to know, and if you want to share it with your neighbors, you can do that too. And lastly, once the meeting is over, everybody's supposed to be able to access all of the minutes of what happened at that meeting. So technically, our local government is supposed to be making a really good record of what's happening during these public meetings. However, because of capacity issues, what's, the biggest focus for that team, these kinds of things often fall by the wayside, and there's a lot of reasons for that. So that's where Documenters is really stepping in to create that more complete public record. So what's really exciting, you can participate in Democracy Day, you can participate in Documenters and become part of this program. And so now I'm going to start up a conversation with 3 incredible documenters who have been with us and taking notes at public meetings for the last more than a month sometimes, and ask them some questions about why this is important to them and everything. So I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful colleagues here who are participating in Documenters, and I'm going to ask that everybody just start by introducing yourselves, share your name, your pronouns, and then also how you're in Philly, what's your relation to the city, and what do you love about Philly? So we will start over at the end.
Well, that's a lot. Well, I am, one of the things that attracted me to Documenters is that I'm a big believer in something called it's really common for things that really make a difference in your life to be mind-numbingly boring. For instance, I have a neighbor who has a special needs child, and
Thank you for joining PhillyCAM and WPPM LP Philadelphia 106.5 FM for our Democracy Day special. Live from the intersection of 7th and Randstead, PhillyCAM is here to share some ways that you can participate in the democratic process. You can learn more about Democracy Day at usdemocracyday.org and learn more about people-powered media at phillycam.org. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back.
I cheated on it with New York for 10 years, but I think I'm here to stay with a lot of travel.
All right. Hi. My name is Savan DePaul. I use she, they pronouns. My relationship with Philadelphia is a pretty pretty positive one. I've been here I was born in Chester County, but I've been here for some years now. Found ingratiated with a lot of queer community here. The thing that attracted me to documenters was the idea of kind of being involved with local politics and accountability in a different way. Very often sometimes been doing like some activism and stuff like that can be very like stressing and like very like on and direct when in some ways that's not always needed, and sometimes there's a different approach that is needed. And I think one of those is sitting in meetings and taking notes and learning about things. And in that process, I've like learned a lot of minute details about the city and how it runs and specifics. Everything from trash to how taxes are done here, property and beyond. So I don't know. I think it's a great. It's been a great opportunity to learn.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jared Johnson. I was born in North Philadelphia, raised in Ohio, in a small town, and I came back in 2018. The thing that brought me to documenters is that I want to make a difference, especially in the city of Philadelphia. I'm also a member of Fifth Square, which is a political action organization. So Will Tung and John Gidding, if you're watching, shout out to you guys. They're like the heads of Fifth Square. So that's what brought me to documenters. And I also have an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree in college. And I want to make that useful by making career out of working within the city of Philadelphia, whether it's in public office or public transit. I'm a big advocate of public transit at Fifth Square as well, so a big fan of the buses, so I'm like a transit nerd. And I would say my relationship in Philadelphia is ever-changing and impactful. Like I said, I want to make a difference in people's lives. I don't want to be known as, especially an African American like myself, as one of those statistics that are in jail, always in trouble. I want to make my life a positive one. And I hope that other people of different ethnicities who are watching this that are thinking that there's nothing out there for me, I have no way of being successful. Yes, you do. You can be successful. And the only thing that's stopping you is yourself. And if you believe in yourself and say to myself, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I know that there's going to be challenges. And believe me, there are going to be challenges along the way. Life is not going to be easy, but if you keep believing yourself that you can do it and be positive, then you will go a long way.
Thank you so much, everybody. All right, so I should share about myself. Obviously, I'm Julie Christie. Maybe that's not obvious. And, my relationship with Philly is I came here as a student and I fell in love with this city 7 years ago, almost 8. And it's a place where I immediately wanted to invest myself. I really want to be part of this city. I think Philadelphia is where I learned about community, and that was very life-changing. And so I want to be part of that. And so I'm so excited that the city has allowed me to be part of, this place and show the love that I didn't know that I could for a place, for a group of people. And everything. And I think something I love about Philly is its unapologetic self. It's a place where I learned how to be myself, and I just get to walk down the street and know everybody else is also being just themselves. And that's just, I've been places that don't have a personality and they're not as fun. They're not as much of a good time. So yeah, that's, my connection to Philadelphia and really what it means to me. So one of my first questions for you all is, I'm curious about how you did hear about Documenters, I know the ways that we shared out what the program was when we launched, but I'm curious how did you first hear about us?
I think for me, I actually heard about it in 3 different ways. I think the first way was via City Bureau,
Okay.
I want to say. I was on their mailing list from a different project.
Oh.
And then I think I heard about it via Fifth Square, and a third way I can't remember. So the third time was the charm.
We'll get ya.
I first heard about Documenters through a friend and a fellow activist in the city. I'm in part of like a little autonomous collective, and we usually do a lot of like mutual aid projects and stuff. And they had actually sent me this. I'm like, hey, you might be interested in this. So I'm like, oh, okay, give it a shot.
Awesome.
The first time I heard about Documenters is, and I might have said this already, but I heard it through Fifth Square, because they also have a newsletter that they send out every week about what they're doing in the city, opportunities for growth, job opportunities, events, that sort of thing. So I heard about Documenters through that, and I decided to check it out and see how it is. Take notes, give myself a voice.
Awesome, thank you. All right, and then we can go in kind of the opposite direction this time around. So we'll start with you, Jarrett. So I'm really curious about, do you have a passion for, why do you care about doing something that really pushes for transparency and accountability from our local government?
I care about our people. I want my voice to be heard. And that's all I have to say about that.
I'm definitely in that boat too. I think with it can be pretty easy to look over local stuff, and I think being at the ground level, being in there taking notes is a good way to shine some light on what's happening.
I think for me, the thing I think about most is accessibility, because I always want to make it as easy as possible for people to be involved citizens. And now that I'm older, I know how difficult that can be, the more complicated and busy your life becomes. When I was younger, I was like, everybody should do it, everybody should be an activist. And now I'm like, I get it. But I was excited to be part of something that made this knowledge more accessible. And like you said at the beginning, kind of fills in the gaps where the city may not have the capacity to actually do that.
Yeah. And so you started to talk about this, Evie, of an experience where there were public meetings that a neighbor of yours didn't know about. And so I'm really curious, from you others as well, was there a particular experience or situation that you all have come up against or experienced where you also didn't have access to public information or a public meeting, and what was that experience? What was it like? It's okay if you need a moment to think about it. I can share one from myself maybe, which is so I live out in West Philly, and we have the best farmers market in the city. I've said it, in Clark Park. And there was a period of time in Clark Park where there were a bunch of independent vendors who were selling things, and it was great. It was it's an amazing craft fair, incredible artists and sellers, and it was a great integral part of the farmers market, which then a public entity stepped in and said, you cannot vend here anymore. There's rules, there's regulations around it. And, I heard about a meeting about solutions to what can be done. How can we make this accessible to people, because the cost for vending is really expensive and cost prohibitive, especially to a lot of people. And I found out about that meeting an hour after it started. And I found out about it from somebody who lives in Fishtown. And I was like, how do I, somebody who is in the news in my neighborhood, not know about this public meeting? I learned about it on Instagram from somebody who lives across the city. And so that was a really frustrating experience for me because I felt like I didn't know what the first half of the meeting was about. I didn't know what people were talking about, what solutions had already been surfaced. I didn't know who was in that meeting. I didn't know if I was allowed to speak up because I arrived late. And so, yeah, that was like, it was a really frustrating experience where I was like, I wish that this had been announced better. And, you know, I wish that there was somebody who could have filled me in on what was going on beforehand. And it was just as we were launching Documenters. And I was like, this is, you know, it was very affirming as well as frustrating that, you know, that was something that myself and my neighbors had to deal with, and the people who are like selling their incredible art in Clark Park. Because I don't know how many people weren't able to go and like weren't able to speak up for themselves and really like share what it means to them to be able to be in that space. So that's an experience I had. Has anything popped up for you too?
I will say a few examples could spring up, but one that I thought of that was like, I never thought of that way, was that I was hanging out with a friend and she was telling about how she like wanted to put wanted to like put trees and like plant new things in her garden, but like, and as well as like some small trees, but there are regulations and rules around planting like trees and stuff in Philadelphia, and I'm like, that surprised me, I didn't know that. And at the time I was like, maybe I should look into it, but I'm like, maybe I should have, and then I'm kind of going into like Documenters where I was faced with a situation where I was like in a meeting where like that topic did come up of trees and planting and stuff like that. So like, that could have been useful.
Awesome. What about you, Jared? Do you have an experience where you've, you know, kind of like not had access to a public meeting or public information?
I don't have any experience that I was shut out, because every time I applied to join something or a meeting or came to a meeting, I was always invited or offered to be invited. Being in Documenters, it got me into detail about what different things are all about. So, example, like housing and land use, it gave me a good look in detail about what these people are going through with their rent, or what these people are going through, how their houses are being kept up, what's going on with their neighbors, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. So that's how I got into it. But I can't recall anything that I've been shut out.
Gotcha.
I mean, I've heard of other people that's been shut out or couldn't get access to certain things, and I can go on and on, but you know, we're being time limited today, so yeah, that's all I have to say. Like, I personally haven't been affected by it, but I know a few others that's been affected by one event that they've been shut out.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to talk about too, is, you know, it's like we've talked about, you know, maybe not great experiences, and also there are people out there, there are agencies out there that are really accessible too, and that's awesome. You know, it's really exciting when people are able to make it to meetings and share their voices and to hear about it, you know, like, you know, agencies or whoever that share, you know, hey, like in a month we're having this meeting, get it on your calendars. You know, the ones who really put in that work is super exciting to see. So we have a little bit of time left. So I'm really curious to know, let's see, what are your hopes for what, you know, like, if you could imagine Documenters, what we're doing here, taking notes, sharing information, what do you envision? Like, how could that possibly impact our entire city? have you thought about that or imagined, like what is a future for Philly with like a really successful documenters program?
I guess for me, by having other people get into it, by having other people be invited. If other people, spread the word around more people around the city. I mean, don't get me wrong, documentaries has been very good in reaching a whole lot of people, but there's still lots more people that need to be reached out. Many more people that need to be reached out, especially in the city alone, because this city is like 1 million people in the city alone, not including the travelers. So there are people that are blinded by what's going on in the news. And yet, when I turn on the news and I hear these horrible stories about gun violence and domestic violence and road rage, I say to myself, these people don't get it. Like, some of these people may not have watched the news more often or don't care. So, spreading the word around is one example in my mind.
I think my dream is that it becomes ubiquitous to the point where it's almost boring and something we can take for granted. Like, it's just there, part of our like civic infrastructure, and people can just easily access it without really thinking about it or even having to think of themselves as an activist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Jared and what Evie are saying. I would definitely add that, like, a good marker for success in documenters would be like if there's a meeting and there's like a bunch of people who are making public comment, a bunch of people who are in there being like, every time you can always expect a group of people to be there and to be like, I'm gonna make a comment about this. I'm gonna make a comment about this. So that I guess that's when it's like, okay, yeah, we're really cooking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Thanks. I think I really share all of those dreams. And something that I'm really excited to see about the program is, I want to see documenters to be at every meeting. I want every person in the city who helps run a public meeting to know that we're going to be there and to actually like be excited that we're going to be there. I think that is a really, really big dream for me because, I think when we all have information, we can work together more easily. We can communicate better and all of that, especially if we're all working from, a shared and unified like source of information. So we are just about wrapping up. So I want to share, what everybody watching can do about documenters. So first, thank you all so much for joining me on a Friday midday kind of morning situation. We're getting lunch after. I want to share with everybody how they can all become documenters and how they can join this program. So anybody can join. We have no requirements or prerequisites to be part of this program. We do want to make a note that while this program, we're not producing content directly in Spanish, we are excited to work with people of various levels of English proficiency. And we are really excited to, share with you that our next training to become a documenter is free to attend. It's on October 23rd, so in about a month and a half. That's a Monday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. If you check out our website at philly-pa.documenters, that's DOCUMENTERS.org. You'll be able to find that training, and there we'll talk in more detail about your rights at public meetings, how to take notes and best practices, as well as, just building community together and working together. So thank you all so much for joining. And we are so excited for this program.
Thank you for joining PhillyCAM and WPPM LP Philadelphia 106.5 FM for our Democracy Day special. Live from the intersection of 7th and Randstead, PhillyCAM is here to share some ways that you can participate in the democratic process. You can learn more about Democracy Day at usdemocracyday.org and learn more about people-powered media at phillycam.org. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back.
Next up, we'll have Luisa Suarez interviewed by Lily to discuss Equal Informed Philly.
Hey Jay, thanks so much. We're back. I'm here with Luisa Suarez, who runs the Equally Informed Philly text line. Hey Luisa, how are you?
Hi Lily, I'm really good. I'm really excited to be here with you and, PhillyCAM here on Democracy Day.
Okay, so before we hop in, tell me a little bit about yourself, Luisa.
So I am the editorial associate on the Equally Informed team, really a part of the Resolve Philly team as a whole. And I actually have been working here for a year now, but I was an intern in my undergrad at Temple. Go Owls. I'm here, so yeah.
Awesome. So Luisa, what sparked your interest in journalism and why?
Honestly, so I have been really involved in journalism since I was in high school. When I was around 10th grade, I joined this local paper called Voices, and that came in tandem with a local talk show like WEEU, and I would go on there and talk to residents of the Berks County community. So I've always been really into journalism from a young age. I was very lucky to have that. But also, my dad has always just read the news and such, and I was very influenced by that as well.
Oh, cool. So Luisa, what is the Equally Informed Philly text line?
So the EIP text line started in 2020 during the pandemic because, there was just a lot of information swirling around. And we have a digital divide here in Philadelphia as well, right? Not everyone has Wi-Fi, not everyone has access to high-speed internet. So we kind of wanted to address that problem by creating the EIP text line. And we would send resources to our subscribers every Tuesday and every Thursday. And now through the years, it's developed to a text line where I send all kinds of resources out to the community. So.
Awesome. So how do you use that to keep people informed?
How do I keep it? Honestly, I think one of the big things is for us to be informed, We have a wonderful community engagement team that works with a lot of our community partners that have wonderful resources. So we send out a bunch of different things. So we'll send out resources from housing, jobs, all kinds of even around the holidays, for Thanksgiving, where you can get food. And it's especially really helpful during emergencies in the city. Mm-hmm. For example, when we had the air quality issues, we found where you can get masks, or when we had, the possible water contamination, we just sent out the links directly of hey, put in your address, see if, there's possible water contamination where you're at. So that's really the ways that we try to keep ourselves informed and therefore help, our subscribers stay informed as well.
Right. Okay, so speaking of resources, we're here on Democracy Day, a day to call attention to the importance of civic engagement and being civically involved. So what kind of information do you guys send out when election season rolls around each year?
So since the fall of around 2020, we have been sending out a lot of voter guides and ensuring that people know, hey, this is where I go to vote. Hey, am I eligible to vote? Information like that. So we've been sending that out for years now. And, in the spirit of election season, we thought we might do a fun little run through of general election, facts to know. I'll start off with a really big one. Election day is November 7th, so don't forget to register to vote because the deadline is October 23rd. But if you're not a U.S. citizen or before 30 days of election day, you can't vote. So that's important to know.
Right. So as we get closer to election season in November, we're going to be voting for our next mayor in Philadelphia. We're going to be voting for new city council members, judges, and more. So as we get closer to Election Day, November 7th, you should stay tuned to local news outlets who work really hard to keep people informed about the positions we're voting for. So outlets like Billy Penn, WHYY, Kensington Voice, they put out really fantastic voter guides. There's also the Committee of 70, where you can go on their website and fill in a sample ballot to see what your specific ballot is going to look like for where you live, the district you're in. So yeah, stay tuned for that. And also, if you subscribe to the Equally Informed Philly text line, we'll text those things right to your phone.
We really will, I think one of the most important things we do during election season is get those guides and really pull a lot of the key information a couple weeks before, November 7th, and send that out to everyone. So if you're a subscriber or, want to subscribe, keep an eye out for that. Another really important fact is the polls open at 7 a.m. and they close at 8 p.m. Now, it's really important to remember if you've had, a really long day, but you're able to get in line by 8 p.m., you still have the right to vote as long as you aren't in line, right? But let's say, you have work all day or for some reason, you just can't make it to the polls. There is always mail-in voting.
Yep. Yeah, so the deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is going to be 5 p.m. on Tuesday, October 31st, a.k.a. Halloween. So request your mail-in ballot online. You can do that through the state's election website, which is vote.pa.gov.
Yes, and if you're interested in being a poll worker, right, you want to make some extra cash, you can apply to be a poll worker online or with the Office of the City Commissioners. They're also in need of bilingual interpreters, clerks, and machine inspectors as well. And you could be paid upwards of $250 for working on Election Day, which I think
not bad.
Cool, a little extra cash. And also you can do it as long as you're 17 and up. So even the youth can get in on, participating on Election Day, which I think is a really cool way to be involved,
Yeah. I think we like to say at Equally Informed Philly that it's equally as important to be, informed about what's happening in the city during election season, but also after election season. So programs like Philly Documenters, which we talked about earlier today, is a great way to do that. Also staying tuned into what local news outlets are sharing and supporting their efforts is a great way to keep up with the latest on city government and how people can be involved. So, Louisa, how do people sign up for the Equally Informed Philly text line?
Honestly, that's the question of the hour, right? How do you get involved? How do you subscribe? So all you have to do is text Equal Info to 215-910-7070. Or, honestly, follow us on Instagram and on social media at Equal Info 215. And, you can get plugged into all the resources we share. Not only do we, are we really active on the text line, but we're also really active on Instagram and Twitter. We have flyers from our community partners. We'll have updates on our story and on the TL. So if you want to get in on the social media, that's a way to do it as well.
Cool. Louisa, thanks so much for joining me here on Democracy Day and Parking Day with PhillyCAM. The Equally Informed Philly text line is such an important resource, and I'm so glad we could talk about that today and share it with the people.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Also, this is an important chance for people to see, I exist. I'm not a bot when I'm texting you, when you're interacting with me, asking your questions. I am behind, the computer, interacting with you guys. So here.
Real people.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining PhillyCAM and WPPM LP Philadelphia 106.5 FM for our Democracy Day special. Live from the intersection of 7th and Randstead, PhillyCAM is here to share some ways that you can participate in the democratic process. You can learn more about Democracy Day at usdemocracyday.org and learn more about people-powered media at phillycam.org. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back.
Lastly, I will be interviewing the staff from PA Youth Vote. Welcome, everyone. Okay, can we start by introducing yourselves?
So, hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm a summer program coordinator for PA Youth Vote.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cameron Davis, and I serve as the lead organizer for PA Youth Vote.
Hi, my name is Damir, and I'm the digital media director of PA Youth Vote.
Okay, so we just gonna get right into it, okay? All right, so what is PA Youth Vote doing to engage new, young voters? And what do you see working?
Okay, so PA Youth Vote does a lot of work to engage new young youth voters and people who can't vote yet, so that we try to get them ready before they are of voting age, so that they're informed voters. So we go into classrooms. We have a lot of clubs in different schools in Philly and in other counties throughout PA, and that really gets students excited about it, because they get to be informed and engaged about voting and civic engagement by other people that are going to school with them. So that gets a lot of students excited about voting, and also gets them understanding about issues that they care about, and how they can use their votes, and how they can go to their elected officials to make change.
Nice. This sounds really dope. All right. So what has gotten you guys interested in this work?
For me, it all started when I was in high school. Like Rebecca mentioned, I was 17 years old. It was back in 2018. And my teacher, Mr. Quinn, who is actually one of the co-founders of PA Youth Vote, he was telling me about the importance of my vote and connecting it to like Black history and the history of us in voter suppression. And once I learned that, it really made me want to get engaged more. And I started doing voter registration in schools, and then I went to college, started making TikToks about voting, and now I'm 22 years old, and I'm trying to help other young people the same way I was helped when I was 17 years old. So I really think it's empowering to see the full circle, and I believe that PA Youth Vote does that well, really engaging you when you're young, 17 in the classroom, and then bringing it to now, like even Rebecca, myself, Damir, we're all of college age, and we've been impacted by this work since we were in high school.
I could dig it once again. So another question that I have is, what are the issues that you guys are hearing regarding young people being engaged in the voting process?
Yeah, so there's a lot of issues that students have been talking about. Young people in general, a lot of them have to do with like gun violence. A lot of them have to do with women's rights, abortion rights, especially like in Philadelphia. Even stuff like sanitation has been like a really big issue that students care about. So there's like really anything that you see in our city that you're like, maybe we should change that. I bet you a student's thinking about it. I bet you a young person's thinking about it, because they're just thinking about so many different, and we are all just thinking about so many different ways that we go and it's like, for example, like criminal justice reform. There's a lot of young people concerned about that, because they're like, yo, I got my brothers, my cousins, my sisters incarcerated, and it looks like there's no way out. We don't even know how to navigate the justice system. So things like that, a lot of things about education, that's what students are concerned about. That's what young people are worried about, because we don't know, we don't have that education, and the things that we do know, every time we learn about something else, it's like, dang, why is it like that?
So Damir, have you come across any issues when you reached out and talked to some of these young new voters?
Yes, absolutely. Like a lot of the times, like Rebecca was saying, it really evolves around the form of like education and stuff like that. And some of them might not know ways that they could use their voice, to really make change. And a lot of the times, we not only can make change through voting, but also through our freedom of expression. Like as the media director, like I really want to encourage the kids or whatnot to really use their voice, or combining art, activism, really tell a story, because a lot of voices get silenced when it comes to, the political system and stuff like that. So it's just really like that education factor, and then knowing how to go about it has really been like the two main things that I've been hearing in terms of talking to students and stuff.
Nice. Would you like anything to add to that?
I would like to add to that. I think oftentimes when they hear PA Youth Vote, a lot of people have this misconception that young people don't care about voting, we don't care about politics, and that's really not the case. Like Rebecca and Damir both mentioned, it's finding a way to connect the issues with the power of their vote. Because these young people come from like disenfranchised communities, marginalized communities where we don't really talk about this. So when you tell us about the power of our vote and you connect that with the issues we care about, we're more likely to get out and vote and be civically engaged.
Cool. All right. So now my question to you guys, when you guys were in high school, right, would you guess that you'll be doing the outreach that you're doing now for voters, or this is something that is new to you, but you're excited that you're doing it?
Okay, so when I first learned about PA Youth Vote, I had no idea what I was signing up for. And I was like, ooh, this sounds cool. I got nothing to do. When I showed up, I was like, oh, wow. I learned so much that first meeting. I was like, wait, you telling me that my vote does this, that, and the other? Like, I was like, and so, like, if beforehand, when I had initially joined, I was like, oh, yeah, this will be something nice to do while I'm in high school, whatever. I did not think I'd be sitting here right now being like, yo, vote is really important, and we really got to get more education about it. Like, when you first join, you may not, like, and I know a lot of other people that have the same story that joined PA Youth Vote. Like, when you first join, you may not know what you signed up for because we don't get educated about voting a lot, but by the end, it's like, oh my gosh, we gotta get more people into this because this is so important and it's affecting our lives.
Would you like to add?
I would like to add, honestly, I feel like when I first started, like in high school, I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. That's it. I was tunnel vision. I'm going to be a lawyer. And then I don't know how, I think it was the pandemic and the 2020 election, getting really involved in doing work with PA Youth Vote. I feel like my trajectory changed. Now I'm doing work with nonprofits. Now I find myself doing more teaching, and I never thought I would have an element acting like a teacher. I really enjoy this, and I still think I could be a lawyer and find a way to combine this, but I had no idea that PA Youth Vote was going to take me down this path.
That's the awesome part of it, ain't it?
It really is.
How about you, Damir?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, honestly, I did not think about voting at all, but I was a very artistic person. I knew that freedom of expression was really important to me, and coming into PA Youth Vote, it showed me how to really navigate and use that in different ways, right? Because when honestly, I was probably one of those people that didn't believe in the power of voting and didn't really understand it, right? But getting into PA Youth Vote and like understanding how every vote really does count, and also like messaging, marketing, things like that, it kind of play a factor into this as well. Like how much do we know? How much are we getting educated by the media at the same time? All these things are really important and should be taken into account. So this or PA Youth Vote has really like gave a new avenue to really making a change or making a difference in our community, essentially.
Okay, so this is the next question for you guys. Y'all ready for it?
Yep.
All right, here we go. What incentive does PA Youth voters working for this upcoming election?
We have a lot of things that we're doing. First and foremost, we always make sure that when we go into schools and we try to get students to do registration teams, that we're paying them for the work that they're doing. All of the students get paid for going out and tabling at local community events, sitting here doing interviews. Everything that we do, we make sure that we put money in their pockets. Another thing that we're doing is on October 4th, we're actually having a voter registration party with Councilmember Kendra Brooks. We're partnering with the School District of Philadelphia. There'll be some tours that the students get to do in a little fun scavenger hunt, all things to get them registered to vote, but also to have them see the fun in voting, right? And the last thing that we're doing is on October 26th, which is actually National Vote Early Day. We're having a Vote Early Day march called Give Us a Ballot. It's actually inspired by a speech that Dr. Martin Luther King did called Give Us the Ballot, where he says, give us the ballot and we'll fill our legislative halls with men of goodwill. So we'll be having a Vote Early Day march. There'll be some food. There'll be some fun. DJ Diamond Cuts is coming and she's DJing. Just all fun things to get them to understand that voting doesn't have to be boring, but really engaging them because voting can be fun.
All right, so mention those two dates one more time in a little brief. So just in case if they didn't get all that good information, they could get it one more time. How about that?
Sure can. So on October 4th, we will be having an event. We're hosting it in partnership with Councilmember Kendra Brooks called We're Grown Now, New Voters Registration Party. We'll have a scavenger hunt. We're partnering with the School District of Philadelphia. It'll be a whole lot of fun. And then on October 26th, we're having our National Vote Early Day March called Give Us a Ballot, where students can come, request a mail-in ballot, vote early, enjoy music, performances, food. It'll be a bunch of fun. They get to vote and understand the importance of how their vote connects to some issues that they care about. For all that information, you can follow us at PA Youth Vote on all social media platforms.
All right, so this is a question for all of you. After the election, where do you guys see yourself participating in PA Youth for the following election? Because it's not just the presidential, it's also, what's going on statewide, judges, and so forth. So what are you guys individually planning for you guys' future with PA Youth?
Okay, so I'm actually in school to be an educator right now. So one of the things that I've been learning, especially I just started school last month, and so I learned a lot that a lot of people even now that they're in college don't know about all the elections. They don't know about the power of all the elections and how really, really, really important their local elections are, and how they probably affect them more than the national elections that they know about. So for me, it's definitely going out and be like, hey, there's a local election. You know who's up? And they're going to be like, no, what's that? And I'm going to be like, yo, you got to find out, because you see how that street has a pothole? That's why you need to go vote. So that's what I'm looking to do.
Cool.
I'll be working with PA Youth Vote full time, so something that I'll be doing is continuing to go back into schools, starting voter registration teams, talking to them, giving presentations, going to other events, trying to find students to give them something to do and connect with them that way. Something else that I'll be doing is probably making a lot of TikToks. I love making TikToks. I love it. Voting TikToks, history TikToks, you name it. So I'll probably be making a lot of TikToks to also engage the Pennsylvania youth.
Nice.
I'll probably, more than likely, I'll be really expanding on that media side, kind of giving kids the opportunity to use their voice on social media. That could be documentaries, that can be any form of expression that they really want to engage in. So allowing their voice to be heard on all platforms and allow everybody to have a spot or a seat at the table.
All of you guys sound great on your new adventures, and I can't wait to see where you grow. All right, so I would like to thank everyone who participated in our parking day for the Democracy Day. Please tune in, continue to learn, continue to grow, and don't forget to go out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you for joining PhillyCAM and WPPM LP Philadelphia 106.5 FM for our Democracy Day special. Live from the intersection of 7th and Randstead, PhillyCAM is here to share some ways that you can participate in the democratic process. You can learn more about Democracy Day at usdemocracyday.org and learn more about people-powered media at phillycam.org. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back.
In your city or town, there are dozens, maybe even hundreds of public meetings each month. They're important spaces for democracy, where anyone can drop in and have a voice in local government. What happens in those meetings affects your everyday life, but there are so many, hosted by all different agencies. And it's hard to keep up with all of them. Some are covered by local news, but a lot of them aren't. Some publish agendas, official votes, and thorough meeting notes, but a lot of them don't. Some are canceled, and nobody even notices. And all the information is split up on different websites, a lot that are hard to find or not updated regularly. At documenters.org, we're collecting and standardizing all this information so you can access it anytime. And we host free trainings and pay you to attend these meetings and take notes. Together, we're creating a new public record to shine a light on decisions being made in our city, because you deserve to know. Documenters.org. Find the meeting information you want, get trained and paid to go to them, and get our original reporting delivered to your inbox. Let's reimagine local journalism together.